Hello, everyone. It's 12 o'clock, so thank you for joining our live stream on the Clear Aldin Publications platform. I am the founder and CEO of Clear Aldin Publications, Dr. DeAndrea Matthews. For those of you who are just meeting me officially for the first time, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for following our platform and participating as, a watcher, whether you're watching the live stream or the replay for our virtual book launch this week. All week long, we have been featuring our co-authors from the Overcomers Anthology Volume 1. I want to make sure that you follow the Clear Aldin Publications social media pages and our YouTube channel, because on June 1st, I'll be announcing how you can participate in the Overcomers Anthology Volume 2. We already have people who are reaching out and participating, getting their deposits in and wanting to find out more information about Volume 2. We don't officially go public with it until June 1st, but you can send me an inbox, send me a private message, or you can send me an email at info@clairealdin.com to find out more information about how you can participate. So I wanted to take this time today, and since we've been featuring all of the co-authors, it's kind of hard to feature yourself. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. And just as all of our co-authors have been talking about the 5 things that they learned about themselves in participating in the Overcomers Anthology, I wanted to come on and talk about the 5 things I learned about myself as producing. I'm a co-author, but I also help to produce the Overcomers Anthology, helping to pull all of the authors together, put all the chapters together, all of the technical aspects of the publishing process, all the technical aspects of the writing process, because of course, whether you're a first-time author, or whether this is a return book project for you, there are steps that you have to be coached through. So I wanted to make sure that I gave everyone everything that they needed as a result of being a part of this anthology. So I learned a lot, and I'll be sharing that with you today. Thank you so much, Mia, for joining. If you are on the live stream, I won't know you're on the live stream unless you drop something in the comments. So say hello. If you're watching from someplace outside of Metro Detroit, let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions for me, please drop them in the comments. I want to be able to answer your questions. So whether it is dealing with the Overcomers Anthology specifically, whether it's Volume 1, Volume 2, questions about writing, questions about publishing, questions about selling your book or marketing your book, I'm open today. So if you have any questions, go ahead, drop those in the comments. So I wanted to come on during the lunch hour, see who we could connect with. We've been hosting these sessions throughout different times of the day. So some have been in the evening, like today is during the lunch hour. So we've been hosting them both during the week as well as on the weekend. So I hope that you have caught some of the live streams. If not, go back and watch the replays. We have some wonderful co-authors that have shared their stories, that have bared their soul, that were very vulnerable with everything that they've talked about as a result of participating in the Overcomers Anthology. So a little bit about me. I don't have a formal bio that I'm going to read or anything like that, but I did want to at least let you know a little bit about me as far as my literary capacity. Of course, I wear many hats, but the one that I'm talking about today is as founder and CEO of Clear Aldin Publications. I am a 6-time author myself, so I have 6 books of my own. I also have 5 additional book chapters. So officially I've been in 11 publications. So 6 of my own books, 5 additional book chapters on top of that, as well as 2 academic journal publications. So the first one was published in the Journal for the Poor and Underserved by Harvard University Press. The second is actually pending. It is under review with Academic Medicine. So I'm looking forward to that coming out. So I've worked both on the independent publishing side as well as with traditional publishers. Of course, it was collaborations, but with traditional publishers as well. So I have quite a bit of experience going through this publishing process, going through the writing process itself, and of course, selling books. So that's just a little bit about my authorship. Now, as far as founding Clear Aldin Publications is really and continues to be a part of my passion. Yes, I am very serious about the business aspect of it, but it is a somewhat of a passion project for me. And let me tell you why. So I wanted to be able to provide both the education, the tools, and the resources, as well as professional services to first-time authors who want to get their story out. And the reason for that is I know that a lot of people don't have the same resources, don't have the same network that I do. And when I became an author, I was able to connect to people, get lots of information, do research, and again, tap into all of my networks and everything that I had access to in order to be able to produce my books. But not everyone has that network. Not everyone has that access or those resources. So I started Clear Aldin Publications with that desire in mind to provide those things to first-time authors so that their voices could be heard. It has evolved from that because, of course, I like data. I like making data-driven decisions. So looking at the data, looking at some of the statistics, particularly from Publishers Weekly and other places like that, where it talks about how very few African American authors are writing about the African American experience. So only about 30%, technically 29%, particularly in children's book publishing, but 29% of the authors who write for the African American community are African Americans. That means that 71% of the people out there who are writing about and for our community are not from that community. So a part of what I want to do and how my work has evolved is I have a goal of diversifying publishing. So I want to make sure that I am helping as many authors as possible, particularly authors from underrepresented backgrounds, to tell their story and get their stories out there. So again, that's a part of the passion that I have for the publishing industry and for the work that I do. Enough about that. As you're joining us, again, say hello, let me know where you're from. And I want to first talk about the cover of the Overcomers Anthology, since this is our launch week and we are, again, featuring all of the co-authors. I want to talk about the book itself because the paperbacks came yesterday. When I get off this live stream, I'm going to be taking a road trip and delivering copies to our co-authors. But the paperback came yesterday, and if you look at the cover of the paperback and you see the picture that's on there, that picture was very intentional. And the picture is actually of somewhat of a green twig or a green sprout that is emerging from the concrete. It's emerging from between the bricks. And I wanted that to be the picture, particularly for volume 1, because just like that green plant, that green sprout is emerging out of the concrete, everything that was designed to keep you down, the concrete that was laid over top, the bricks that were laid down over top, everything that was designed to keep you from emerging, to keep you down, guess what? You fought through and you made it out. So I love the picture of that green twig, that green sprout emerging from amongst the bricks, emerging from amongst the concrete. And I hope that everyone who looks at the paperback or who even gets a copy of the ebook can appreciate the thought that went into that cover itself. And with Clear Aldin Publications, we do customize each and every book cover. A lot of thought goes into the design and the elements of it. And the same is true for the Overcomers Anthology. So just like I said, everything that was designed to keep you down, to keep you from emerging, it wasn't able to keep you down. And just as that green sprout emerged from amongst the bricks and the concrete, these overcomers have emerged and have a story to tell. So that was just a little bit about the cover itself. So I wanted to share that with you because it's something that I have not had a chance to talk about. It's something that I have not had a chance to really expound on as far as those elements of this book project. So the anthology is something that's close to my heart because in lots of ways, and as you'll see over the years, because I want to produce one volume every year for the Overcomers Anthology, there are lots of things that I personally have overcome. There are lots of things I know that each of you has overcome. And I want to provide an opportunity for people to become published authors and tell their story. The anthology, for those of you who don't know what an anthology really is an opportunity. It's a collaboration. It's a project where multiple authors submit book chapters around a common theme. For volume 1, it was overcoming. For volume 2, it's going to be overcoming fear. So overcoming is, of course, the general theme for the Overcomers Anthology, but it's an opportunity to tell your story. It's an opportunity to, in a smaller format, you don't have to worry about producing an entire book. It's just a book chapter about 2,500 to 3,500 words, depending on, of course, the font size and all the rest of that. But what comes out to about 10 typed pages, that's what is requested of our co-authors. So again, this is an opportunity to tell your story, hopefully in a non-threatening, comfortable space where, again, you receive guidance on how to write, how to really pull out all of the elements of your story to be able to share it with a broader audience. So that's just a little bit about the cover itself. Again, as you're joining, if you have questions about the Overcomers Anthology or questions about my story that I shared in my book chapter, or even want to know more about writing, publishing, publishing or selling books, just drop it in the comments. And that's whether you're watching live stream or whether you're watching the replay. I appreciate your engagement. So let me go ahead and get to the 5 things about myself, the 5 things that I learned about myself in producing this anthology. Of course, this is not my first time writing a book. This is not my first time participating in an anthology. I got some experience when it comes to that. So that part of it wasn't really new or wasn't anything special to share. But the first thing that I want to share as far as those 5 things is I realized that it doesn't take me long to write if I just sit down and focus on my own writing. So that's the first thing. I need to sit down and focus on my own writing. I don't really do that. I work typically 6 days a week, at least 12 hours a day. My husband probably says more than that, but I work 6 days a week and I work on lots of other projects. I give myself fully to my day job. I give myself fully to all of the Claire Aldin authors, particularly those whose projects are currently in the queue that I'm working on. And I don't leave a lot of time for my own projects, which is why I only work 6 days a week now. I take one day of the week for myself. But in doing so, when that day comes, usually I'm so tired, I just want to relax. I just want to, be catered to, things of that nature. So I don't always spend a lot of time writing. So the first thing that I learned about myself is, when I sit down to write, it doesn't take me long to get it done. I can sit down and write 1,500 pages in 15 minutes. It's not even an issue for me. So when it comes to all of the book projects that are in my queue, in my head and in my notebook that I still have to write, I want to make sure that I sit down and start taking more time to write. Just as I have my authors scheduling time to write each day, I need to do that for myself. The second thing that I learned about myself in this process is that even though I'm very much aware of the writing process, very much aware of the publishing process, even aware of the 5 pillars of book creation that I've created for Claire Aldin Publications, even though mentally, intellectually, I know this process, but I need to document the process, and not only document the process, but be able to track chapter progress better. So I have put systems in place to be able to do that. So everyone who is going to participate in volume 2 of the Overcomers Anthology, it's much more systematic progress for me to track where you are with completing your book chapter, where you are with the various aspects of what needs to be submitted for participation, whether it's the author photo, your author bio, things of that nature, those technical aspects that are needed. There's a system in place now to document that, to track it, and again, to follow along and encourage people in a timely fashion to meet all of the deadlines, which brings me to point number 3 of the 5 things that I learned about myself as a part of this Overcomers Anthology. So the third part that I want to talk about is deadlines are my friend. Now, everyone's not going to be able to say that deadlines are their friend, but deadlines provide a level of accountability that I need in my life. It also lets me know that there's some flexibility that can be offered. There's nothing wrong with that. But having a deadline really lets you know how flexible you need to be. It gives you a endpoint. And even if you have to extend beyond that particular deadline, you already know that, okay, I'll allow an additional 3 days or 2 weeks or whatever that looks like. But deadlines are my friend. I learned that because if you don't give someone a deadline, then they'll just take weeks and months, and really, especially as time is going on, we're almost at another weekend is upon us. Time doesn't stop. But when you have deadlines, you hold yourself accountable, you hold other people accountable. So deadlines are my friend. That's the third point, or the third thing that I learned about myself. The other thing, number 4 for me, is sharing and documenting the process. Again, whether it's writing, publishing, or selling books, documenting that process and being able to share that process lets others see behind the scenes. And that's something that as a person, I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. At one point in the not so distant past, I was a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. And even when it comes to live streams and things of that nature, I wanted everything to be right. I wanted, everything to be set up right, the right background, right backdrop, the right clothes, the right hair, the right makeup, etc. And, I had to learn how to do it scared. I'm an introvert by nature. When you meet me, you might not know that off the rip necessarily, but I'm an introvert. I like being, by myself. I like sitting in the corner reading a book, not bothering anybody. All of that is real cool with me. But being able to let people see the process, being able to document the process and allowing people to see behind the scenes is something that I wasn't accustomed to. It was something that I had not necessarily considered before, but I do recognize that it's an important part of the process as well. So it's important not only for building the Clear Aldin Publications brand, but it's also important for increasing visibility and creating trust around the business itself. It's important for people to see what's going on, the process I go through with each of our authors, the process I go through in promoting them and helping them to market their books. And again, whether they want to transition from the author to becoming a speaker, things of that nature, how that process unfolds, being able to see, allow people to see not just the finished pictures from the author photo shoots and things of that nature, but also being able to show, again, what happens behind the scenes, what happens as you're preparing for your professional photo shoot, what happens as you're preparing, for just the right author headshot and things of that nature. So being able to show people the process, being able to document that process, particularly documenting it by video and not just audio, not just text, not just graphics, but having multimedia approaches to documenting everything that's going on with Clear Aldin Publications, with each of the authors and things of that nature. So that's number 4 about the 5 things that I learned about myself in this process. For those of you just joining, if you have questions that you want to ask, go ahead, drop them in the comments. I won't be able to see anything unless you drop it in the comments. So say hello, any questions, comments, let me know in the comments as we're going through this. So far I've talked about a few things. I started out talking about the cover and where the really image for the book cover came from and the thoughts behind that. So if you missed that, go back and watch the replay. I did also show a copy of the book because the book is available. The paperbacks came yesterday. So we have the paperbacks and I'll be delivering those to the co-authors. If you have not pre-ordered your copy, make sure that you get your copy. You can pre-order it from your favorite co-author. You can get it from me or you can get it from any of our other co-authors. The paperback is not available online yet. It's intentional because I want to be able to support our co-authors as they are, again, selling their books, making a profit from the paperback sales themselves. So the paperback will be available in June on Amazon, on other sites, but right now it's not available. It's only available from your co-authors. So if you want to get a copy of it, just let one of us know. We're happy to send you a copy. I'm actually going to the post office today to drop some copies in the mail. So if you've ordered any books from me in the last few days, I'll be dropping those in the mail on today. So talked a little bit about the cover, where that design came from, what it means, and all of that. And then I started sharing the 5 things about myself. I've already gone through 4 of them. So the first one was about me sitting down and taking the time to write. The second one was about knowing the process, but being able to write down the process and develop a system so that we can monitor everyone's consistency and things of that nature. The third thing was deadlines are my friend. Again, having deadlines in place to be able to have some accountability and things of that nature. And then the fourth thing was, again, sharing the process as it's being documented. Not everyone knows what it's like to be an author. Not everyone knows the process that's in place to actually write a book or write a book chapter. Not everyone knows, again, all of the different things that goes into producing a book itself. So being a little more transparent about the process as I'm building the Clear Aldin Publications brand, as we're increasing visibility and hopefully creating trust, so that you'll know that we are a reputable hybrid publisher. I know some publishers, particularly your vanity presses, which are not the same as hybrid publishers, sometimes they get a really bad rap because, it seems like they're just out to get your money. They just want your money, produce the book. They don't really care about editing or anything else. I'm very cautious about what I put my name on. And when I say put my name on, the Clear Aldin Publications brand, that's a part of who I am. And I'm not going to put that name, Clear Aldin Publications, on just anything. I want to make sure that it's done in integrity. I want to make sure that it's done correctly, going through the process of taking the time, multiple rounds of professional editing, things of that nature. I I want to make sure that that's done. But I also recognize in this process that I need to be a little more transparent about that and share more of that part of the process itself. So what that means is I'll probably be doing more live streams. I'll probably be sharing a little bit more rather than just your graphics on social media and, occasional blog posts and things of that nature. So I'll be a little more consistent with how I'm sharing across our platforms, which brings us to number 5 out of the 5 things that I learned about myself in producing the Overcomers Anthology. And really, the number 5 has been birthed as a result of the pandemic itself. What do you mean by that? Well, we planned an actual physical book launch for the Overcomers Anthology. The first date was in April, of course, with the stay-at-home order in place. We had to postpone it. We postponed it until June. Of course, the stay-at-home order has been extended to June 12th, which is why we are doing a virtual book launch. So number 5 really is about the virtual book launch. I had never considered doing a virtual book launch. The book launch itself is time consuming, trying to coordinate schedules with all of the co-authors and bring everyone together in various capacities. But even though it's time consuming, the virtual book launch has been a lot of fun for me. It has allowed me to share in ways that I had not considered before. So even though I wanted to do a physical book launch, doing a virtual book launch has been a lot of fun. I think that my co-authors will agree. Hopefully they'll agree. But again, I had not even considered doing a virtual book launch, and moving forward, I want a virtual book launch to be a part of what we are doing, what we are presenting as far as the Overcomers Anthology and any future anthologies that are created. I like doing anthologies. I actually prefer doing anthologies. Aside from that, my favorite genre are memoirs. And of course, memoirs are a little bit different than autobiographies, and you're really just sharing a small snippet of your life and, what you've experienced. But I prefer that because, you really get to draw the information out of the author in a way that it presents a solution to a problem, which is what nonfiction work should do. As a nonfiction author, you do want to provide a solution to a problem. You do want to address a problem in a way that people find hope, they find encouragement. So again, with this virtual book launch, it's allowed me to view myself differently, to view the services that I offer differently, and also expand what is being provided to the co-authors, particularly those who are a part of the Overcomers Anthology. So I'm grateful because, again, outside of this pandemic, I would not have considered doing a virtual book launch. I would not have considered all of the ways that we have shared as far as the anthology itself. So this has actually been a blessing in disguise. It's almost scary saying it like that, but it has been a blessing in disguise being able to do a virtual book launch and share in this capacity. So those are the 5 things that I learned about myself in producing the Overcomers Anthology, which was the point of doing my lunchtime live today. So if you have any questions and you want to know more, drop them in the comments. Let me know what you want to know about, whether it's about the anthology itself, whether it's about writing or any of those things. I want to read the synopsis for the book. This is the back of the book. So we have our pictures of our co-authors. And we have a brief synopsis, which says, for the very first time, these overcomers will release their stories of hurt, trauma, and pain to the world. These authors tear down their facades to expose a life of unspeakable strength, faith, and courage to overcome. The Overcomers Anthology is the first volume of stories to encourage you to move beyond your current limitations, to realize the power residing on the inside. You too can be an overcomer. And that remains true. If you want to be a part of volume 2 of the Overcomers Anthology, send me an email, info@clairealdin.com. I will get you those details. Again, not being officially released to the public until June 1st, but because you're watching the live stream, because you're participating in our virtual book launch, I want to get you those details if you're interested in being a published author, if you're interested in being one of the co-authors for volume 2 of the Overcomers Anthology, which is on overcoming fear. Now, some of you may be wondering what my book chapter is about. I've been talking about everyone else and their book chapter all week long. And those of you who know me know I don't like talking about myself. I don't like really sharing. So, I enjoy being behind the scenes, taking care of everything. So my chapter, which is actually the last chapter, chapter 5 in the Overcomers Anthology, is on finding your authentic voice. Now, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with overcoming? But for me, in finding my own authentic voice, I really had to dig deep. And in the chapter, I talk about becoming a mother at 19. I was married at 20, and I spent the majority of my life as a mother, as a wife, as a caregiver, giving to everyone else, but neglecting my own self. So it's a lot of nuggets that I share from the perspective of being a wife, being a mother, re identifying who I am, what I like, what I enjoy, and again, finding my authentic voice through it all. I do share a couple scenarios that I've experienced in my life. And again, for those of you who know me, you know some of my story, but I give you a little bit deeper dive into my mentality, my emotions, and what was going on with me throughout the process. And when the light bulb went on, when I had my aha moment, it's like, okay, get it together, girl. And, kind of emerge from that point forward. So, that's what my chapter is about overall. I want you to get a copy of it, read it for yourself, and then tell me what you think. And for all of you out there who are on the list, you already pre-ordered your copies and you're going to be getting your paperbacks, I really want to encourage you to write a book review. I can't emphasize how much book reviews help authors. So I want to encourage you to really write a book review. Once you get your copy, and it doesn't matter whether it's on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you decide to do a book review, book reviews really help authors. And that's true whether it's good or bad. If you enjoyed it, great. Tell us about it. If you didn't enjoy it, tell us about that as well, because reviews overall help authors in multiple ways. It helps authors because they're able to get feedback so that they can become a better author. But it also helps because it lets other people know, hey, this is what I got from it, and encourages them to want to read it for themselves. So I don't know if anybody else, before you purchase something, you read the reviews and see what other people had to say about it. Well, imagine if nobody ever wrote a review. If no one ever wrote a review, how would you know if this is something that someone recommends or not? So it's important to write those book reviews and to let us know what you're thinking about what has been produced. Again, it helps us to become better so that the next go round, you don't have the same difficulties, or you take into consideration the feedback that you've received from your audience. Thank you so much. That's wonderful, Dr. Clark. I'll reach out to you because you want to participate in volume 2. That's excellent. Thank you, Shar. I'm glad you enjoyed that synopsis. Excellent. So again, anyone who wants to pre-order their book, you can contact any of the co-authors. So I have a book chapter in the Overcomers Anthology, as well as Aisha Dennis, Anita Morgan, and Denise Crumby, who've already been featured this week on our virtual book launch. So if you have not seen their part of it, if you haven't seen their live stream, if you haven't heard from them, make sure that you go back and watch the replays. The replays are available on the Claire Aldin Publications Facebook page, as well as on the Claire Aldin Publications YouTube page. If you have not subscribed to the Claire Aldin Publications YouTube page, please do go to YouTube, type in Claire Aldin Publications, and subscribe. That's where I share a lot of videos about the writing process, about publishing, about all things in between. So subscribe to our YouTube page. And again, you can find out more information from our co-authors. Now, I'd left off one because I have 5 co-authors. I'm on today. And then tomorrow, Brian Matthews, my husband, another co-author in the Overcomers Anthology, he'll be sharing his portion. So Friday evening, you don't want to miss that. Friday evening at 7 p.m. You want to join us right here on the same platform to hear from the only males in volume 1. We want to get some more males to participate. Men are writers too. They have stories to tell. So the only male for the volume 1 of the Overcomers Anthology, and he'll be sharing his story to close out our virtual launch week on tomorrow evening, Friday at 7 p.m. So please join us here for that as well. So that's all that I really have to share with you on today. Again, I hope that you have learned something, enjoyed hearing from all of our co-authors this week during our virtual launch. Again, join us tomorrow as we close this out, Friday, 7 p.m. with Brian Matthews, as he talks about his book chapter. I'll be interviewing him. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be so much fun. I have the privilege of, again, reading through the chapters and knowing what the stories are about before the public does. So you'll want to be there as I interview my husband and really pull a little bit more information information out of him as an author. And this is his sophomore publication, just like with Anita and Denise. And then Aisha was our first time author who participated in the anthology. So we have both first time authors as well as those who are doing, this is their second or third publication. That's okay because there's room for everyone. So again, I provide a step-by-step process to walk everyone through what it means to be an anthology co-author, what it means as far as writing your story. Again, it's your story. Yes, it is, but you want to write it in a way that it provides information to your audience so they know what you've overcome and how it really can impact them, how it connects with some of their experiences, things of that nature. So yes, Dr. Clark, it will be an interesting interview. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if he feels the same, but I'm looking forward to doing that interview tomorrow. So be sure to join me. I don't see any questions. So if you do have any questions, I'll be checking back. Just drop them in the comments. And even after the live stream is done, even if you're watching the replay, make sure that you drop those questions in the comments. I'll be happy to go back and answer those. So thank you for sharing your lunch hour with me. Thank you for joining me for this lunch hour live stream. All right, we do have a question. All right, so Shar says, what was my favorite part of compiling this anthology? Good question. So my favorite part, honestly, I think my favorite part of compiling the anthology itself was the moment that I brought all of the co-authors together. Again, volume 2, we have some people from out of state and it will be a virtual gathering, but since we were all here in Metro Detroit for volume 1, bringing everyone together was my favorite part of compiling it, because it wasn't until that point, and when I say bringing everyone together, what had already taken place was everyone had submitted their chapter had gone through the editing process. The bios had gone through the editing process. So this was really almost like a beta reader stage, because once the editing is done, you do want other people to read through it and get their feedback. And that's where you make those final tweaks to make sure that the way you want the story received is how it's being interpreted, is how it's being heard, so that your intent comes through. So that was my favorite part, because at that point, everyone came together. Again, it was them meeting each other for the first time. And for meeting each other for the first time, they had a chance to really see their anthology co-authors. And also, this was the first time where they actually got a chance to find out what everyone else's chapter was about, because I kept it open for volume 1. Volume 1 was really making sure that we talked about overcoming. I didn't limit it to a particular theme or a particular topic outside of overcoming. So I wanted to make sure that they all came together, they met each other, and they heard what everyone else's chapter was about. Now, the unique thing, and again, there's a method to my madness. I know that I could be a taskmaster, but what I also did was I had printed copies of each of their book chapters. And what I did as they came in, I gave each of them someone else's book chapter. Now, again, there's a method to my madness. So the reason for that is I wanted them not only to hear their chapter coming from someone else, but again, as the first time telling these stories and being this vulnerable and about to release it into the public domain, I wanted to make sure that they heard someone else reading their story and they understood the impact of that. So that was my absolute favorite part of compiling the anthology, bringing everyone together, having them hear their story from someone else's perspective, being able to answer questions, and again, make those final tweaks to the chapter itself before it went to print and before it was released as an ebook. So thank you for that question, Shar. All right, so the next question is, what's the estimated timeline from start to finish of the anthology? Very good question. So I can give you approximates, because things happen just like with this pandemic, and things change. But overall, so for volume 2, I'll use that as the example. For volume 2, the public announcement is going to be June 1st. So essentially between June 1st and September 1st is the timeline given for actually writing the chapter. So anyone who wants to participate can participate, as long as they can get their chapter in to me by September 1st. So there'll be multiple announcements during that time frame promoting it if someone wants to be a part of it. So that initial time frame is for the promotion of volume 2 and also to receive the chapters. That means that during that time, the other thing that's going to be taking place is I'm going to be doing some coaching. I'm going to connect with people on a virtual platform to be able to do the brainstorming sessions. And I'm going to take these authors through exactly what I would do with anyone else writing a book. We'll have a brainstorming session. We'll do a mind map. The mind map becomes the outline. The outline becomes, again, the skeleton by which they can now sit down and write their chapter. So I'll give some additional pointers if there's some research that needs to be done, some statistics that need to be pulled in, things of that nature. Hi there. So all of that will be a part of that initial part of the process. So that's what I would call phase 1. Phase 2 would then be the editing part of it. And phase 2 could be, again, I'd say probably a couple months. So the editing process, depending on how many authors actually participate, and I probably will cap it and do no more than 20. My goal is to get at least 10 for volume 2, no more for 20. If we have a great response to it, that's wonderful, but I'm going to cap it absolutely no more than 20 for volume 2. But that second phase will be the editing phase. And what happens is you go through both the initial editing of the chapter itself, what I call the pre-edits. Then it goes to the professional editor for content editing, developmental editing, again, fact checking, and all the rest of that goes on as a part of the editing process. Then the author gets their edited book chapter to read through. Again, if there's some questions in the editing process that need to be answered, or if it's any holes in the story that need to be filled in, that will be done at that time. So all that's a part of phase 2. And then phase 3 will be actually compiling everything, getting the book cover completed, making sure that we have all of the author photos, and depending on the number of authors, whether the photos go on the back, whether it'll be a part of the interior, but all the names of the authors will be on the book cover. So all of those technical design elements will be a part of phase 3. And then of course, phase 4 would be, again, the marketing push, the book release, and actually getting the copies to the co-authors. So I would say overall, everything is going to be done in less than a year. Ideally, it would be done within 10 to 12 months. So that would be my ideal time frame, again, broken down into those 4 phases as far as what's going on. The biggest part of it, of course, is the announcement and actually getting the writing done. Once the writing is in, then all the technical aspects of it come after that. But approximately 10 to 12 months will be the entire process from start to finish, from blank page to published author. So I hope that answered your question, Dr. Clark. Thank you for that. All right. I don't see any other questions. If there are, again, just drop them in the comments and I'll try and get those answered for you. But excellent questions today. So thank you for engaging me in that way. Again, I don't know what to share with you unless you ask. So I love it when the viewers ask questions and you draw more out of me. So thank you for that. All right. I know you can't really see it, but I'm wearing a t-shirt that says, "My book rocks. Ask me about it." So again, I wanted to do that because I want to help and empower our authors to be able to know some of the things that they can do on their own live streams, on their own platforms, on their own author pages and things of that nature, to help to promote the book, to help to talk about what their book chapter is about, what they're interested in. If they're an expert in a particular industry or in a particular field, there are some wonderful ways that you can talk about it without being salesy, without being spammy, without just saying, "Hey, buy my book." So there are lots of ways to engage people around what you're doing as an author. So please go and follow the Claire Aldin Publications YouTube page. That's where I'll be dropping more videos to be able to share with you, again, if you are an author already, ways that you can promote what you've already done. And if you are an aspiring author, ways that you can get engaged as well. So writing, publishing, selling books are 3 separate and distinct processes. And I talk a little bit more about that in the videos that I share on our YouTube page. So that's all for today. Again, thank you for taking your lunch hour to join me for this live stream. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. DeAndrea Matthews, founder and CEO of Claire Aldin Publications. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.